All right, Panther Lair, we're going to do another voice overlay here from the Pittsburgh Panthers loss to the Xavier Musketeers in the round of 32 in the NCAA tournament. These are some things that I thought Pitt did pretty well. They just didn't do them consistently enough. Now, some of those things you can't run on every single possession. Some of these things that you could just do naturally. So we're going to talk about a couple of them and dive right in here. One of the things I thought they could have done, especially at times when the offense was stagnant, there was an opportunity to go and run multiple times in the second half too, but they just didn't do a lot of off-ball cutting. They drove the ball well, but you'll see that these are the two possessions I felt like they cut, and they ended up getting baskets. But, kind of end of the first half here, the drive and kick was working a little bit, and anytime they could put rim pressure, things tended to be pretty good. But you'll see here, guy gets the ball in the post, Guillermo gets the ball in the post, and a lot of times too, their drives would get cut off, and so somebody would be standing somewhere just either right inside the paint or a little bit outside, and nobody would move. But here, Burton makes a kind of almost fakes that, then cuts through and gets a nice here layup before the end of the half. And then here we go midway through the second half. Now, this was an opportunity, I think, this is where Pitt could have probably gone on a little bit of a run here. If they would have been able to get this within 8 or 10, I think they could have really put pressure on Xavier at the end of the game. Again, drive gets cut off here, and Jorge just makes a nice little cut. So these are some things that there just wasn't a lot of off-ball movement, and I think if there was a little bit more, especially on some of those possessions that were just a guy going one-on-one and then jacking up a shot without anybody else touching the ball, they may have been able to get a few more points there. So we're going to start looking at some of their staggered screen action here at the top. So this is, I don't really want to label this horns, because it's not really like a choice set, but some of the motions that come out of this double staggered ball screen are some of the things you will see come out of horns. So a lot of times, Guillermo, he's going to roll, and then Hinson's just going to lift. And so, Pitt's gone to this a lot to close games in the last couple of weeks, I think. There's probably a lot of clips. You may have seen some in the breakdowns that I do. But here, one of the things I like about these combination actions is how it tends to knock out a help defender. So, this defender here is going to kind of drop out. This defender here is going to stick right to Hinson. So there's just not as much immediate help from the players involved. Shooters and corners here, these guys are both going to hold. And so you have a guy now having to fight over two screens. So, Burton's going to be able to put a lot of rim pressure here. And, these defenders have to make choices here. And I think here, this player just gets completely lost when Guillermo starts to roll. He has to stick with him. This guy sticks with Hinson. And you're kind of attacking this double gap that's created by the fact that this is a double high ball screen. And you see Burton gets a layup. Probably one of his easier attempts of the night, to be honest. Or the day, rather. And so here, this is some of the action I'm talking about. A lot of times the ball screen will be used. Guillermo, he may try to roll. Hinson's going to lift. This time, Hinson's man drops to, prevent the drive from Burton. And then he switches back onto Burton. And you'll see, or Hinson, rather. But you'll see, Hinson, pretty no issues jacking a shot like this. And we've seen him make quite a few. And then this is their zoom action. So some of this comes out of a very similar 5-out. Sometimes it's this top ball screen, double ball screen. Sometimes it's not. But you'll see here, this is going to be their zoom alignment, right? So Nelly's going to come. He's going to get two screens, an off-ball screen here. Hinson has a flexibility here. He may dive. He may flare. And then same with Guillermo, right? He's probably going to roll. And then Nelly is going to be able to come off this, get this DHO. And he's going to run his man off of two screens. And this creates such a good advantage here. This help defender now completely out of the picture. Guillermo's going to roll. It looks like he's probably going to just drop and then sink here. But again, shooters are going to be in the corners. You don't really help out of the strong side corner. So, this is just good action. Anytime 3 or 4 guys were involved, I think Pitt was able to do a few things. Nice dunk there by Guillermo. And this one really stood out because it ends up being a 4-player action. You'll see here Federico in for very little time, but this is their 5-out look. So this is going to be Nike now coming off of 2 off-ball screens before receiving this handoff from Federico. Again, you're going to create this double gap on this side of the handoff because all the defenders are on this side here. This double gap to attack into. You'll see all these defenders sink, but they can't sink too far because these guys are all shooters, but they're going to be completely not in a position to help on anything that Nike's going to do. Federico's going to roll, have to honor that. And Nunji makes a choice to stick with Federico here, so this is just going to be a pretty easy layup for Nike. Again, you don't help out of the strong side corner. So I did think Pitt found some success with some of the things that they were doing. They just didn't do them often enough. Now, again, you can't expect to run zoom or those staggered high ball screens all the time and get necessarily what you want out of them, because defenses will certainly adjust. But I thought there were just too many stretches where Pitt had a very stagnant offense, a lot of guys going one-on-one. And if there was a little bit more off-ball cutting, or if they would have been patient and kind of run a little bit more of their offense, I think they would have had some better shot opportunities. And again, I don't think this game was ever in question necessarily, but a lot of it's because of these reasons. Had they done few more of these things and maybe been within like 2 or 3 possessions most of the time, so anywhere between, again, like 8 to 10 points, or not quite 10, but maybe more like 7 to 9 points, I think they could have put a little bit more pressure here. And who knows? That it's March, so you always can come away with a win. But these are things they can build on. These are some of the things I thought they did well. They just didn't do enough of.